We are deep in the heart of the State Fair of Texas, a 4-week-long Texas staple that celebrates Texas food, great rides, and the historic college football rivalry between OU and Texas. Coach Dykes and the Frogs are now 2-1 heading across the Metroplex for the Battle of the Iron Skillet, looking to continue their strong offensive campaign behind quarterback Josh Hoover, who is currently third in the country when it comes to passing yards with 1,022. The Frogs lead the all-time series with 52 wins, but in order for win number 53, many have their eyes on defensive coordinator Andy Avalos after a less than stellar second half against the Knights that had many Frog fans stunned after seeing their halftime lead diminish. Saturday's kickoff is slated for 4 p.m. at Gerald R. Ford Stadium. Thanks, y'all. Now, I'm sure we're all familiar with the concept of a state being a stronghold. A state like New York, a Democratic stronghold. A state like our beloved Texas, a Republican stronghold. States that can pretty much be predicted without much analytics. Now, let's turn to the previous two elections. Great state of Georgia. Now, Georgia went red in 2016 in favor of Trump, but infamously in 2020 went blue. Sort of a shock to both sides, but an area where voter turnout will be crucial to both campaigns. Arizona, same story. Red in 2016, but blue in 2020. Now, annually between 2016 and 2020, 64,000 Californians moved to the state each year. That number jumped to 74,000 in 2022. Why is this important? Well, you ever been to Arizona? Beautiful land. Go golfing, go watch the Suns play, maybe go dirt biking. But those Californians can also bring those ideas with them, an infamously blue state. Now, this will be a pivotal state in this election. We'll look forward to seeing what unfolds. That if Emil says a team is going to go far, they do the exact opposite. But the hometown kid, rooting for the hometown team, can't argue that. For me, it's Arizona, and that's because, we talk about Tommy Lloyd and somebody who replaced Sean Miller, who built a very solid foundation for Arizona, but they ran into a red-hot Clemson team, so give them credit, Clemson credit where credit's due. But, this is a team that brought in Caleb Love in the offseason, that transfer portal, making use of it. And they still don't look like they were quite comfortable. They shot 37% field goal percentage and just 17% from beyond the arc. So that was a really solid Arizona team throughout the entire year. And Pac-12, Pac-2 play, whatever you want to call it, just didn't have it when it came to March. And that was a team who many thought were built for March. Yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. obviously the favorite. I do think one guy to keep an eye on is Ladd McConkey from Georgia. We saw what he did against TCU in the national championship game not so long ago, but also against Florida State. Some really impressive plays. I really do think McConkey is a guy that in the long run, long career, I do think kind of a Wes Welker type. We go shift now to the tight end position. We'll start over here, Andrew. TCU women's volleyball currently has a 17-7 record with a 9-5 conference record in the Big 12. While they dropped 2 straight, both on the road, Sarah Sylvester was named the Big 12 Co-Defensive Player of the Week. Her impressive stat line included 13 blocks this week with 116 on the season and an average of 1.25 blocks per set. The Frogs are still in top 25 at 22 now and look to bounce back tonight against Houston in their blackout game at Texas Tech on Friday for senior night. Now, we had Jade Otway on set last week. Exciting time for women's tennis. What's happening on the men's side? Some people think the ties between the election and NFL football run deeper than just a former player being the candidate for the U.S. Senate. However, the theory regarding the commander's rule has been floating around for a few weeks now. Dating back to 1940, the last game before the election for the Washington Commanders has correlated to the presidential election results. When the team won, the incumbent party was predicted to keep the White House, and vice versa when they lost. I do think he's an issue, not for the reasons that you just said. I think he takes too long to get the football out. I do think it's one of those things where I think to be, let's just say to be successful at the next level, you got to get that ball out in under 2 seconds. Yeah. He had just under 3 seconds in college, his average snap to pass. I just think he's not going to develop as well. I feel like his throws still look a little bit lofty to me. And again, he was doing it with weapons. When Nick was at Alabama defensively, he was always like, why would you not draft the guy who went to Alabama on the defensive side of the football? For me, that's becoming the tale with Georgia. Absolutely. I think, to me, Jalen Walker is right there with Carter. I think you can make a case. Look, he had 62 tackles last year, 38 of them were solo. He runs a faster 40 than Jack Betch. He also returned punts in 2022. The guy does it all. Yeah. But you look at what's come out of Georgia between Jalen Carter, also Nolan Smith. I think he's just like Nolan Smith, and guy just won a Super Bowl. So I do think to me that Jalen Walker is the guy to keep an eye on outside of Bill Carter.